Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Good.
You think everyone should be vegan?
That's right.
What organization are you with?
I'm not with an organization, just speaking for the animals.
Really?
Yeah. All independent, on my own.
Like, aren't there like a lot of like workers who like depend on like their jobs, you know? Are we like taking jobs away from workers?
In the animal agriculture industry?
Sure, yeah.
Well, right, yeah, I mean...
transportation and everything surrounding it.
Right, sure, there's a lot of infrastructure backing the industry. So, I mean, since it's a supply and demand economy, we as consumers fund the existence the existence of the industry. So as what we're seeing is like as dairy industries are shutting down, almond milk and other dairy substitutes are taking their place. So these guys actually, instead of working in slaughterhouses where they rape cows repeatedly, murder their children, you know, and then send them off to slaughter, instead these guys get to shake nuts from trees and stuff like that, you know, actually be out in nature and doing something that's a little bit more sustainable and probably fulfilling. A lot of people working in this industry end up with domestic abuse issues, PTSD. They're murdering hundreds, sometimes 1,000 innocent babies a day. You know, grabbing pigs by their legs and baby pigs and just swinging them on the ground head first because they're a waste product, you know? Yeah, so I like to think of it as a way to give these guys a better opportunity. A lot of the people working in the industry are people of color. They're already impoverished. They're minorities. That's what these big businesses do. These industries, these factory farms, they go into impoverished communities and they put in these disgusting, you know, industrial farms, and all the sewage and, you know, water runoff and nasty waste gets into their atmosphere and their soil and dilapidates their communities. So it's actually exploitative to those workers too, to not be vegan.
Yeah, I guess I would just be worried that the jobs don't come back immediately. So there's still
it's definitely a slow.
Go to other areas,
right?
Also, so it's not the same people who get reemployed, and also these other industries seem maybe more automated, so there's not a one-to-one substitution.
Sure, yeah, and you know, the whole world's not going to go vegan overnight. But what we're seeing is, as there's a very slow change in the demand for one type of product, there then becomes a demand for the replacement of that product. So people, you know, job security isn't too much of a problem. We just like to give these people more options.
Are you worried about like what it sort of takes to like presume to know that like an animal's entire life is net negative? Like it would be better off if it had never been born at all.
Well, right, if you were born just to be a slave, to be raped your whole life and then have your throat slit, do you think you would have wanted to be forcibly, you know, your mom was raped to bring you into existence, and then you're, you know, say you're a woman, then you're raped to bring that kid into existence, who then becomes a slave who's raped and then brought into existence. Is that the life you think you would want? Right now, we could just stop funding these things, and what happens is when these factories and these farms shut down, the animals go to sanctuaries. So they just get to live out their life in peace. But they're being forcibly bred into existence. It's not like we're kidnapping them out of the wild. Like, that wouldn't be great either, because the animals that exist in our environment were put there by evolution to help maintain balance and symbiosis in the environment. So there's really no reason to go out murdering, taking life out of existence when we're given this opportunity to promote the growth of life. It's what helps us evolve further. But yeah, I mean, these animals, I mean, they only exist for that purpose, and we assign them that purpose. It wasn't their innate genetic purpose. Their innate purpose, we know with science, is to be free, to share love and joy, to live a life free of suffering and harm. They have family, you know, they have brothers and sisters and cousins, and they're very social creatures, so they, you know, they exhibit the same kind of emotional, social patterns that humans do, as far as like showing care for one another. So yeah, well, why not give them the opportunity to just experience the good parts of life rather than all the suffering and the torture?
Sure, yeah. Sometimes I worry that like it seems like vegans are kind of like insular, kind of like, you know, sort of focused on their own thing more than other things. Like, are there ways you think like vegans do or could do better jobs supporting other movements like current Black Lives Matter protests? Sure,
yeah. You know, a lot of vegans, it's about, I think the percentage is 99% of vegans support other social justice, you know, leading social justice issues, whereas, you know, 99% of people who support other social justice issues are hypocrites when it comes to the animals. They have this human supremacist viewpoint. So, if you're looking for the kind of inconsistency in the logic and the lack of noticing the intersectionality of the issues, vegans are actually the most inclusive, because their standard is, if you're sentient and if you're being oppressed, no matter if you're human, you're black, you're white, fur, feathers, we're going to give you the respect that you deserve. And that's not to say a chicken should be able to drive a car and buy a house and get a mortgage and all these things. They're not exactly equal to humans. We just realize that their life is more valuable than just a fleeting taste bud pleasure, a sensory pleasure. If that's our only justification for murdering and raping someone, it's the same justification a cannibal or a serial rapist would say. Oh, it feels good to rape, so that's my justification for it. It's not really a moral or logical justification for victimizing someone. But yeah, so there is intersectionality, and you can look at issues like, a lot of people will say to me, you shouldn't be telling people to care about the animals' lives because they're sentient and they feel pain and suffering. You should be telling them to care because it's causing climate change, and that affects us personally. And that's when things get a little bit messy. When we start distracting from the victim and we start seeing it through the supremacist, the oppressor's viewpoint, then we forget the whole point of what it's about. So while there is a lot of intersectionality even with veganism, it's the leading cause, animal agriculture is the leading cause of world starvation, because we go into other countries, we decimate their land for livestock and crops to feed the livestock to then ship off to first world nations. So it's victimizing indigenous and black and brown people overseas, perpetuating that system.
We subsidize our meat so low that we can import and undercut their markets.
Exactly. Yep. Not only is it the leading cause of world starvation, it's leading cause of species extinction, deforestation, ocean dead zones, water waste, pollution, all major global suffering and death worldwide. 3 trillion animal lives are lost every year. That's more than all the humans combined throughout. 3 trillion.
Animal lives are lost every year?
Once every year, yeah.
In farming and industrialized farming?
All animal agriculture systems. So a lot of it is just waste. It's just waste. We cast these 3-mile wide nets through the ocean, and we scoop up everything we can. We throw away sharks, we kill whales, we kill dolphins, and we're just like, oh, let's just pick the tuna, the very small percentage of all that's tuna, let's pick that out and have them be our food. And we're very selective and arbitrary about which animals deserve to be tortured and used for food, and which get to be set free or are just a casualty, a byproduct of the system. So there's 3 trillion animal lives that are lost every year, so it's the leading cause of just global suffering and death worldwide, and it's also the leading cause of all major human health problems. Since we know we can thrive on a plant-based diet, we evolved eating primarily plants. Sure, at one point, for a small blip in our evolution, we had the sociological tendency to hunt, but it was like once a month, maybe every 6 months.
And at a time when we lived so much shorter lives.
Right, exactly. So, our health wasn't great back then when we were depending more on the secretions of another creature or their dead flesh. We didn't evolve with a biological dependency on those products, just a sociological one. So we're social omnivores, but biologically we're herbivores, actually head to toe, because the majority of our evolution we were eating mainly plants. Since we know we can be healthy, the leading cause of death, the top 15 killers for humans is the animal agriculture industry. It's the products we consume, the lifestyles that we have is the precursor to all our adverse health effects. So there's just so many reasons to go vegan, but all of those reasons are nothing compared to what the victim goes through. So if we say, I'm gonna go vegan for the planet, or I'm going to go vegan for my health, it's not technically veganism. You're just practicing a plant-based diet, a certain percentage of plant-based. There's no percentage of veganism. You either oppose murdering and oppressing someone, or you don't. That's kind of where, like you were saying, it'd be nice to see a little bit more intersectionality expressed by vegans, but when that happens, it kind of distracts from the victims. That would be like going up to a Black Lives Matter protest and saying, well, don't you care about animals? What about the animals? Oh, you care about black people, you black supremacists? That would be ridiculous. That's obviously not the point. They're speaking for what they believe to be true in that moment. And at the same time, I can go to a Black Lives Matter protest, and then afterwards, I can hang out here and do this. And then afterwards, I can go to an indigenous rights protest or a women's march, that type of thing. So there's nothing stopping us. Why not choose to be compassionate over cruel in all ways, all forms of our life? Just expand that circle of compassion to all.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'm vegan. I think it's really
Hey, right on, man. Great questions.
Thank you. I really like.
Did I pass? Did I have good answers? All right.
That's solid.
Hello.
I was wondering, are you familiar with effective altruism at all? Is that how you got involved in any of
I
this?
haven't heard of that. No.
It's like a movement that's really sort of focused on like identifying high impact cause areas to be working on, and sort
that's
of
cool.
factory farming is kind of like a darling of the movement in a lot of ways. It's just a really neglected, really tractable social issue.
Totally.
If you're interested in looking, you can just Google effective altruism. There's some
Yeah,
cool stuff out there, really cool
Nice.
resources. But yeah, it's really awesome that you have this all set up.
Yep. Thanks for stopping by, guys.
Have a good one.
Appreciate the support.